You know, I don't necessarily think that any of the content that I make is particularly good, especially the ones where it's just, oh, we're reading Reddit threads. But I do think that there is a narrative here. I do think there is a conversation to be had about the Detroit Red Wings and some of the guys that are on this team. Steve Yzerman, I'm not going to say he made a mistake, like, oh, this is going to tear the franchise down. No, this is not a big, dire, absolute tragedy, travesty, something like that. One of the two words works. It's not a total travesty of a move, but it is disappointing. So, let's go out there and talk about Parekh Kane on the Detroit Red Wings right now, because the 36-year-old has himself a whopping 10 points in 23 games played. He is on pace for 33 points in 77 games played. He, alongside of Vladimir Tarasenko, hadn't really been able to get going in the ways that many Wings fans were expecting, especially when you consider the timeline, the progression from New York over to Ottawa, in Tarasenko's case, eventually Florida, winning a Stanley Cup, and when you think about the fact that Parekh Kane was also on that team in a limited sample, I mean, Tarasenko was great in New York, Parekh Kane also great in New York, also Tyler Motte was there, so really nice to see a bunch of New York Rangers find themselves onto the Detroit Red Wings in this capacity. But also, for Parekh Kane, the guy has had himself 0 points in his last 5 games, 2 points in his last 10 games, and if you scroll down to the game log, he hasn't had a point since, what is that, November 13th? It's been almost a month of Parekh Kane scoring. He hasn't had a point in, what is that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games, and yesterday, against the Buffalo Sabres, yesterday? No, 2 days ago, he ended up missing the shootout goal. He ended up going way wide. James Reimer, former teammate, he just fumbled it. Didn't really have the best showcase in that shootout. And now, when you head over to the Detroit Red Wings subreddit, there's a conversation going on about Parekh Kane that I wanted to respond to in this video. Take a look at this post made by Dr. Funk. They use the discussion meme of the man in the courtroom trying to say an unpopular opinion, but Tyler Motte has been far more useful to our team this season than Parekh Kane. Of course, they are talking about the aforementioned Tyler Motte, who is on the Wings right now, who I really, really love. I love this guy, and I have loved this guy for years. I think if you're a Canucks fan, you are right there with me in that boat. Tyler Motte is a stud. 29 years old, 5'10", 192. I can't believe he's already 29. That's ridiculous. But Tyler Motte was drafted by the Blackhawks back in 2013. He was in their system. He was in the Columbus system. He got traded over to Vancouver in the Thomas Vanek trade in 2018. Spent the next few years developing in the bottom of the Canucks lineup and eventually had himself a super strong playoff run with 5 points in 17 games in 2019-20. This was the bubble playoffs, where Tyler Motte was an absolutely elite bottom six forward, and he scored some really clutch goals. Add to that the work ethic, add to that the buzzsaw-like qualities, and the best point per game season of his career, posting up 15 points in 49 Vancouver Canucks games. Motte then was sent over to New York, where he was okay. He then found himself a new home in Ottawa, and then he was over to New York again. Had a really good stint over there, actually. 10 points in 24 games. Was a part of the team that housed Parekh Kane and Vladimir Tarasenko. Then he went over to Tampa Bay. Now he's in Detroit. He's got 1 goal in 16 games. Tyler Motte is not going to be a super high point producer, and he's definitely not doing that in Detroit. But as a guy who was a former University of Michigan player, and someone who hails from Michigan as well, there was always going to be a good amount of love for Tyler Motte, especially when you think about the value he brings to a bottom six. This is where we go over and talk about the Reddit thread. I wanted to go over some comments here talking about Kane and Tyler Motte and whether or not this Kane re-signing decision was kind of a fumble by Stevie Y. Who really knows? Let's scroll down and read here. Oh, there. I said it. Kane is slow and not scoring when handed opportunities. Tyler Motte is working his butt off every game I see. Kane just seems totally checked out. I expect him to be gone at the deadline, sadly. If anyone wants him. He'll have plenty of suitors. I mean, the LA Kings, for example, they're amazing 5v5 but weak in the power play. A perfect setup for Kane. Many other playoff teams would love to add Kane for their middle six with sheltered 5v5 minutes, but let him cook on the power play. Washington, for example, imagine him feeding Ovi, but barely needing to slog 5v5 minutes, and we could retain easily since he is a UFA at the end of the year. I would love to watch Ovi and Kane make a playoff run together. That would be sick. That would be awesome. Just thinking about how offensively poised that Capitals team has been. Connor McMichael, Lindstrom, Alex Ovechkin, Patrick Kane feeding them passes? Who really knows? Lindstrom and Ovi have been so good together, but Patrick Kane adding that on would be just so great. Kane hates our defense first, second, and third system. Me too, and people usually confuse me for Patrick Kane. That's kind of funny. Did he work out a rule with the NHL not to hit him? I know Kane is known for floating, but he legit plays like it's pickup hockey. He stays away from everyone, and nobody dares to touch him. Which last year, it felt like we watched everyone give him space and he totally capitalized on it. This year, no one is giving Kane space, so he's just getting his pocket picked by players who know that he is slow and tentative. Let's scroll down here. Kane looks like he puts in zero effort, probably thought the team was going to produce like last year. He's a cool guy to have for the power play, but that's about it. I'd trade him for a forechecking stud that sacrifices the body for the winged wheel. The best hockey the Wings have played in the last 8 years were the first 2 months of the 2023 season. Okay, not exactly a hot take. Kane has been invisible and clearly hampered by injury, whereas Tyler Motte, albeit as a fourth liner, is at least providing a little value. I mean, effort, yeah, but Tyler Motte has 1 assist in 16 games with top 6 time. No offense, that's horrible value, effort or not. Jonathan Berggren was skating his ass off and producing, and he didn't get that slack. It's a favorites thing. I know there is more than point producing. The Wings have tons of guys with intangibles, but I'm sorry, no playoff team slots Tyler Motte anywhere but the fourth line and the press box. Ah, man, you know what? I hate to see comments like these, but I don't think it's actually incorrect. I do kind of agree with this assessment here, especially when you consider what a prime playoff team would use a guy like Tyler Motte for, because let's face it, I mean, Tyler Motte did have playoff prosperity with teams like Tampa, New York, etc., etc., and he was always a bottom 6 guy. He was never going to be used in a super high role. Even in Vancouver, the 5 points that he had in 17 games in those bubble playoffs, he was a bottom 6 guy. He was a top PK guy, and he, I think, scored a shorthanded goal, which was really interesting too. Might have been against the St. Louis Blues. Let's go out there and see that, because now I am curious. Let's go to 2019-20, and then we will scroll down. Okay, he got no goals. Yeah, there you go. 2 multi-goal games. Games 5 and Game 6 against St. Louis. That is amazing. Take a look at that, eh? 50 minutes time on ice. Tyler Motte was a stud. Just look at the comment section of the YouTube videos where Tyler Motte scored these goals. Canucks fans are in love with this guy. They will dedicate their entire souls to Tyler Motte because of what he did for that organization in the past. Let's go back over onto the Reddit thread and read a few more comments before ending off this video. Kane is playing lazy and doesn't get off the ice fast enough. He actually makes the power play worse with his presence because he's constantly taking square shots at the goalie that he'll never score on. There's no zip in his shot. His passes are lazy and he doesn't play defense. I can't wait until we dump him. I feel like Kane's hips are catching up with him. Motte is definitely scrappy, goes in the corners, and does all the things you'd want a bottom 6 utility guy to do. It's cool to say we have Kane on the team, but he's obviously past his prime. I thought it was decent last year, but this year he looks like he's coasting. I wouldn't be surprised if he retires within the next couple of seasons. Then, you had yourselves just the overall conclusion here. I mean, Patrick Kane still has time to turn it around, but obviously it's not looking good for the 36-year-old. There is a lot of time for him to kind of get his game back up to speed, but based off of what happened last year and how it's progressing this year, who really knows if that's really possible here? I mean, at this point, a lot of Wings fans seem like they're ready to give up on the Patrick Kane experiment, even though he was just under a point per game last season. His production has halved, and he is not looking nearly as effective. He's looking a little bit lazier out there. He's looking poorer defensively, and I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below if this was a mistake by Steve Yzerman to bring Kane back. Obviously, everybody wanted to see him back. It was one of the biggest stories of the year, but now that he's here, and now that he's performing, do you think the lack of showtime is making it bad? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Sign on, and bye.